So be a fair game today, okay? Making inroads. Inroads, not E-N-D, but I-N-roads. Because this is what we want to be about with us as Toastmasters and with Pathways. What I'm going to do as you ask questions today, we are going to do a hands-on demonstration. Many of you are able to get into Pathways, and I'm hoping that you've logged in using your log on. How many, before we go any further, have already identified their or selected their path? Excellent. How many of you are in more than one club? We don't have to worry. Okay. If you notice, you see leadership outreach here. I'm a member of 2 clubs. So if you were a member of 2 clubs, once you log in and you have identified your path, you would have to hit the drop down to go to the particular club that you're going to be working for on those paths for that particular club. So for this purposes, I'm going to toggle back into Business and Community Toastmasters, because this is where most of my work has been done. I am already at level 3 under Business and Community Toastmasters. So I'm going to go back to Business and Community Toastmasters, and that's the one that I will be using for the purposes of demonstrations today. And you see what happens when you're in 2 clubs and you make that connection? It's going to ask you if this is the club that you want. If not, you go to the one that you want. So Business and Community Toastmasters is the one that I want. So I'm going to hit continue. Are you going to continue? There we are. Business and Community Toastmasters. Now what you want to do is log in as a member. So if you would hit that particular login, it should take me to everything that I have under Business and Community Toastmasters, but it's not allowing me to do that. Are any of you logged in yet? All righty. Okay, while it's thinking, or trying to get me in, when you get to the site, it has, tell me what it has.
Choose your path.
Choose, so that means you haven't chosen a path yet. That's the first thing you want to do is choose a path. So go ahead on and choose your path by taking the assessment. Once you've done the assessment, it will ask you, it'll give you 3 paths, and you can choose from one of those paths. So you go ahead on and do that. How many of you have already chosen your path and you're the How many of you have already chosen your path and you have opened and have this screen before you? All right. If you would notice on this screen, we don't have to, if you want to navigate Basecamp, you go to the navigation screen and click on that. But we want to go to My Education transcript. Click on the My Education, because what it will do is pull up for you all of the paths that are associated with that path that you have chosen. So for me, I'm going to click. It's going to pull up. But look what it says for me. I have effective coaching and I have visionary communications. Those are the 2 paths that I've selected. One is for Business and Community Toastmasters and the other one is for LOT, Leadership Outreach. So this particular one is the one that I have chosen to work in for Business and Community Toastmasters. This is what you're going to get. So what I'm going to do is go back to level 1. I'm going back to level 1. These are all the levels that I have completed. Those are all the levels. So if you go to level 1, what it will do is show you every educational requirement that you need to perform under level 1 to successfully complete that level. If you notice, icebreaker. Gil, what's your path?
Dynamic leadership.
Dynamic leadership. What do you have as your very first speech?
In my level 1, it was an icebreaker.
Every last one of us have to do an icebreaker. I don't care what level you are in, what path you're in. All of us must complete the level 1 icebreaker speech. Once you launch it, it will give you all the requirements. So go ahead on and hit launch. Let's launch it and see what's underneath that. When you launch it, it's going to show you everything that you need. If the training doesn't, click here, okay. So you don't want to load, let me click there. It is working slow today. I think that's because so many of us are on it.
And that comes up as a pop-up too.
It's
so
a pop-up.
That's part of the reason that they tells you
To make
turn
sure
off your pop-up blocker.
Yes, make sure your pop-up blocker is off, because if not, you're gonna get a lot of the interference. All right, now you see your icebreaker. The very first thing you're gonna have to do is do an assessment. So if you go ahead on Wanda, where you are, on the drop-down box, you see where it has the this is the assessment that it's pulling up. But you see you have your navigation, you have your introduction, your assignment, assess your skills. If you click on each one of those tabs, it's going to pull up what the requirements that you need to complete are for every one of those tabs underneath that icebreaker speech. Let's see if I can get out of that and go back.
So you have to assess your skills before you give your icebreaker speech?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, because you do a post-assessment and a pre-assessment. And the very first thing they want you to do is give your pre-assessment of where you think you are before you even conduct your speech. Then it's going to carry you, after you do the assessment, it's going to carry you step by step. And if you click on each one of those tabs, it will give you a lesson that you need to read and study for every aspect of every path. Mine is not working, but I'm going to try it again. I'm going to relaunch.
You got a lot of stuff open up there at the top, Joe. Might be slowing you up some.
Yeah.
Oh, that is correct. I hadn't seen all of that, so hopefully we'll see. Okay. It's still giving me the feedback. So let me toggle back. This is all what you're going to see when you open up. Everything that I'm showing, everything that I'm clicking through, it's a lesson. It's a lesson. All right. So I'm at the directions. I'm hitting the drop down box here. You see where it says view printing and project resources? If you click on that particular link, it's going to pull up your goal sheet, what you can anticipate on completing. I don't want to open it because if I open it, it's going to pull up that particular evaluation form. But right here it says view icebreaker speech outline. It gives you an outline on how to construct your icebreaker speech. And once you have completed that, it gives you the download the icebreaker speech outline worksheet. You have a worksheet that you can use to help you create your first speech. And when you've gone through all of those drop downs and you've done everything, after you complete your speech, there's an evaluation form that needs to be sent to your evaluator, or you may print that form, bring it to your meeting, give it to your evaluator. He or she then will evaluate you. Then that can be sent back to you as the presenter. But all of this information is right there for each path that you are, each level that you are performing under that particular path. All righty? Wanda, go back if you would to the icebreaker. I want each of you who have the icebreaker up to download, to open up your assessment. Open up the assessment. No, let's see. Go to the drop down arrow at the bottom and go to your assessment. It didn't pull it up? It went to the sign.
You want this correct?
Yes, assess. All right. All right. On the assessment, assess your skills before. You rate yourself 1, 2, 3, 4. If you've opened it, any of you all open it? Let's see. You're not on the right one.
No, I'm taking my assessment.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Good. You're there. You're not open.
I'm a new member.
Oh, you're a new member. Okay, so you haven't. All right. You're good. You're on the feed. That's the feedback. All right. Go back to your drop down. Go to the assess your skills. All right, that's where you want to be. That's the before. Where are you over here? Are you on the before? Good. Gil, you on before? Your daughter's on before. Help your dad, please.
I'm working on it.
Joe, that's me.
So, you have 5 steps that you go through here to assess where you are. The very first one says, I am what?
Confident.
Confident,
And calm.
calm, when speaking in front of either your 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. That's your self-assessment. So if you have not done this assessment yet, complete it. Complete where you are, and then hit next.
Is it just one question?
It's one question. No, it's 5 questions. There are 5 questions here. There are 5 questions on the pre-assessment. So either you 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for that first question. So click on the number where you think you are and then go to next. Here's your next question. I understand the structure of a basic speech. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Then hit next. The third, you went too far.
Yeah, I already did it, so I
Oh,
don't want to like.
okay, you've already done yours, then you're good. The third question is what?
No, I kept going, so.
Oh, you've gone,
Yeah, I'm doing my 5.
all right, just go ahead on and do your next, just do your assessment. And once you perform that assessment, hit submit. This is your feedback. It should be completed. Huh?
After you do your project, it says go back to this again.
You're right, because what it's going to do is show you where you say you were at the beginning, and after you've completed the project, it's going to ask you to assess where you are now. And then it will pull up both of those scores for you once you've done that last assessment, to show you, compare where you say you were when you started and where you are after you've completed the assessment in that project. But this is the process that you're going to go through for every one of the levels. Every level. It's not just this one level, it's every level.
And there's 5 levels per path.
There's 5 levels per path. Now, how many levels must you complete to be a distinguished Toastmaster? 2 levels. That's absolutely right.
2 paths, 10 levels.
I'm sorry. 2 paths, 10 levels. That's correct. 2 paths you have to complete. And once you've completed all 10 of those levels, you can submit DTM for your DTM, but you also have to ensure that you've done those leadership paths, which would mean serve as a area director, division director, or on the trio, which would be the division, district director, program quality director, club growth director. And you've also got to have mentored someone or mentored a club. So those are the things that have got to be done under the leadership in order for you to marry leadership and all of your speaking educational goals to become a distinguished Toastmaster. Okay? Now, let's talk about specific questions. Now, I've just given you a quick overview of how to get into this path. do your assessment, and then go back and do what you need to do to complete every one of those educational requirements.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So.
I'm listening, I'm not ignoring.
Once, say, a member completes their path, how do we, the Vice President E and me, go in and give them credit for that, so they can get the update?
Okay.
What do we have to do?
Okay? Once, let me do this. Once all of the requirements are complete, all of these preceding items are complete, this is where you would go in as the member. You're gonna have to show that you have completed every requirement.
That means your icebreaker on all your, okay?
The icebreaker, the evaluation and feedback, and the research. These are all the projects that are associated with you getting the completion certificate under this particular level. So once you have done all of these, then you would come here. I can't show you that because I've already completed it, but then you have to go in and mark as, it's gonna pop up, launch complete, mark as complete. Once I, as the member, mark complete, you're gonna get an email. The president is gonna get an email, and the secretary will receive an email from Toastmasters International saying a member, Joe Phillips, has completed level whatever. Then you, as VP of Education, are going to have to log in under the base camp to review, to make sure that I have completed everything. Now that I'm not logged in on the base camp, I can't show you that. But you would have to log in, Wanda, as the VP of Education, and it's gonna have, it's gonna show who has completed that each level, and you will click on those individuals' names, and it will pull up their level, and then you verify that all of their speeches have been completed, and then you will hit submit. But one thing that you'll have to do, you'll have to also go back under, in the educational section of your club, because we can't automatically submit this through Pathways, because we have to go Pathways and under the legacy system. You have to go to the legacy system and select the path that they are completing. So once you do that and you say level 1 is complete for that member of your club, it would automatically send a certificate.
So on that certificate,
Mm-hmm.
when they really can't get that certificate until they get all those paths done.
That's absolutely right.
Okay, got it.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm just gonna put, this is the certificate that will automatically come to the member electronically from Toastmasters International as they complete each level.
Is it me the only one with questions? I got another question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Next question, since we are, it seems like since the club has switched over to Pathways.
Yes, ma'am.
They don't have to sign up to be,
Speaker or
speaker or timer, and so we don't have that much
evaluators.
participation in doing any of that.
Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you
Where is
do.
that at that we don't know about?
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
At the higher levels.
No, it's not at the higher levels. You have a My Account page. And when you log into your account,
Oh.
look at that. Our account, general evaluator, grammarian, speech evaluator, all of these roles have to be completed. Even though it shows the date that I've completed them, it doesn't mean that I do it one time and then I'm finished. You continuously fill these roles at the club level, but you have to get credit.
Does it save, like if you've been the general evaluator multiple times, does it save each of your dates?
No. You are only required to put it in one time. So when you put it in as general evaluator that first time, you met the requirement of being a general evaluator or a Toastmaster or whatever that role is.
So the system does not track people's activity other than if they did it at least once.
It's tracked, but it's not tracked here. Are you all on, do you have a club website?
Yeah.
If you go to your club website, there's a report that you can print out. I don't want to do that. Who can pull up your club website?
I have it pulled up.
You have it pulled up? Okay. And I'll show you and then you can, you can go to the club. Scroll all the way up to the top. If you look, see that icon there?
Okay. You're on the right day.
Which date are you on?
I was looking, I had it. Oh, we got to the 12th.
Well, it doesn't make any difference about the date.
Okay.
Go with it.
Just go to okay.
While she's looking for that, can I ask one last question? This is my last question.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Whatever.
And
So
see what
say
it does.
on
It,
the
it
old
pulls
program.
up the meeting, who filled that role,
Mhm.
and it will go all the way out. If you all are populating your agenda with the names of who's performing each of those roles.
Okay,
Let me get one, and then I come to you. I promise one.
because I was
Okay, go
with
ahead.
that.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay,
Because we have people who don't show up and it changes. The agenda is never changed.
it's
So
the
it's
responsibility
really,
of the,
this-
the VP of Education who puts that agenda together to go back and make those changes by midnight of that meeting. Because if you don't change that Joe Phillips did not fill that role on that particular date, it gives me credit.
So as a secretary, should I also make sure of that too?
You should.
And can she change it?
She has, if she has access to that site, yes, she can change it.
Okay,
But
that's
you
what,
have to do it by midnight of that meeting date, because at 12:01,
They start.
whatever is in there,
There.
they track it.
well, and that's something that has always, I wondered about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So she could go back and change if somebody, if she wasn't able to get to it before midnight, and she comes to the meeting that day and find out that Joe Phillips didn't show up for evaluator, we had to cite somebody else in, she can go back and change it though.
They can be
Change,
changed.
change.
That-
Because
yes.
I went in and I
Mhm.
played around with it, but I
Let's see what
I
the match
didn't get the link.
Yeah, and it tracks it, and then there's a report that can be printed out. The secretary or the VP of Education can go to that printout. And is that what it's saying right here? There's meeting one on that date, and these are the roles that were filled? That's future though.
Well, these are all future ones.
Those
I gotta
are, those
go
are your
see where-
future roles. Come right on over. Because I don't want to leave this and run the
Okay.
risk of not being able to get back in.
Is this
It's only showing
information
me the 2
available
days.
to anyone to run the list or officers?
The administrator is just, if the site administrator gives you access, but it's really set up for the site administrator
Okay.
to do
Well, it's only
this.
showing me 12/11 and 12/18.
And in our case, it would be totally,
Yeah.
totally whatever.
You know what I mean? It's not like.
Well, because I get that too, and I've wondered why all of a sudden I was getting that, and I wasn't for sure what it was. And that's one of the things I was gonna ask you about.
That's what it's for, is so that
Today,
you
to
can
go
track.
Back,
Mhm.
because I've got 4 or 5 years of notes and where they've changed, where I marked out where they've
That's
changed
secretary.
as secretary.
But you're not gonna be able to put that in there
Now,
now, that's correct. But going forward, if a person does not attend a meeting and you have to make a change to your agenda, when that meeting ends, go into that agenda, populate it with who filled that role. So at midnight that night, when the system rolls, it will have the correct information in there.
let me ask a question that really is kind of based on what Wanda said, but it's about 400 words ago. You used the word requirement. Wanda's question was, what is Pathways doing to encourage people to go in and sign up for grammarian and speech evaluator and timer? That was Wanda's original question, and you talked about these dates here that you had completed this, and you used the word requirement when you clicked into this screen. How is that a requirement?
It's a requirement if you plan to become DTM, because if they look and they don't see that you've completed a speech evaluator role, grammarian, or any of these roles, you won't become a DTM.
Okay.
You will not be a
Okay.
DTM.
Who is they?
Huh? Toastmasters International.
Okay.
Toastmasters International.
It's Big Brother.
Mom.
Say, what,
Just
for
a minute.
example,
Thank
I'm
you,
struggling the
Frank.
old path to finish under the manuals, but should I still be updating, ad counter,
I would
clear
think so.
evaluator on
Yes,
the path?
Yeah.
Okay,
I would think
okay.
but
so
you
that-
can only get credit one time.
right,
So if you perform one of these roles under the old, in the legacy system,
right, which I'm already
Yeah.
done,
but
so
you,
I don't need to do it under this system.
Yes, ma'am, you still need to do it. You have to do it under this system because now this is how educational awards are going to be awarded. Because
That's
remember,
where
when do we roll completely into pathways, everybody within our district?
2 years.
Within 2 years from the date that we rolled out.
So we actually.
June of 20.
June of 2020.
June of 2020.
That's correct. June of 2020. So from 2020, well now, from 2020 on, all of these roles have to be completed. But if you're working in both old legacy system and then this system, finish legacy, also be working on this. Because once 2020 hits and you're working toward a DTM, these roles have to be completed. So it's best to go ahead and get them done now. Get them done now so that when 2020 rolls around, all you will be working on then are your educational goals.
Now I have another question for, more for some of the newer people that may not be involved in Pathways yet. I'm thinking about you, Nat. Can you show us how to do an assessment? I mean, you've talked, there are assessments at the beginning of every level of every path.
Yes.
But for the brand new people that haven't logged into Pathways yet, are you able to show us, or is it too late for you to show us how to do an assessment to figure out what path to take?
For me, it would be because I've already chosen my paths.
Well, do we
But-
have anybody with a computer that needs to do that? We can switch to computer?
I mean, because that's what I'm wondering, if we had somebody, because, so everybody knows, to start off in this Pathways system, they ask you about a dozen questions.
I'm
That's
getting
what
ready to-
I'm doing right
And
now.
how you answer those questions, tells Toastmasters International what path you might want to go towards, and they'll give you 3 suggestions after you take this dozen question assessment. They'll give you 3 suggestions. You can take any one of their 3 suggestions, or you can pick any of the 10. That's your choice.
You don't have to take the assessment
You-
technically.
And you don't
No,
really
you
have
don't
to take the assessment, but it is a place to start. It is a place to start if
Hey,
you
it's
want.
fun.
What was
What
that?
kind
You
of
think
Care
it's
Bear am I
fine?
gonna be?
I mean, yeah,
Boy.
just to see whatever they think, you can go on whichever path you want.
Now, in order for
Yeah,
me to do
mine's
that,
Different than what I started with.
I would have to almost like log out of this to get back to the initial page.
Just keep going forward.
But what will happen is, once you get to that initial page, it's gonna ask you the question. Do you wanna select a path, or do you wanna take the assessment? And if you say, take the assessment, as Gil said, there are gonna be a series of questions that they're going to ask you to complete. Once you get to the end of that, it will pull up 3 suggested paths, and you can choose which of those 3, or you can say, I don't care about any of those. This is what I want to select that path, and then you will get to this screen.
It's currently 10 paths,
There
and
are-
there's gonna be more coming in the
Yes.
future.
Yes, but that's for all
I'm
individuals who are
interested in
new.
what mine just came up with.
Yours just came up, yes ma'am.
Okay, so I have a question about, so I've completed my icebreaker
Sure.
and then, like I forgot the evaluation
different
to,
than what
like, sheet to bring,
original.
my evaluator just
Except for the
wrote on a sheet of paper, but I didn't notice anywhere we can download the PDF and print it out and bring it, but we don't have to, do we have to upload it again?
There are 2 ways in which you have to be able to show that you've completed that speech.
Yeah,
You either have the handwritten,
uh-huh.
or you upload it into, and let me show you where it would be.
I printed mine out, person wrote on them, I scanned them in at home and uploaded onto here.
Yes.
So you can print off whatever the curriculum is, that you can print it off physically, so you have a
one's
physical
that?
copy if you don't
Wait a
mind
second.
eating up about 18 or 20 pages of paper.
But, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can print as
Let
many as you want.
me go here, to speech evaluations. Under speech evaluations, these are all, I don't care what path you're in, you can click and get the evaluation form. That's under speech resources from the home page.
Oh, yeah.
And once you do that, because when you get to, even though it's embedded at the end of every level, these evaluation forms, it gets pretty tricky. So here's the quick, easy way, but you'll have to search for which one you are completing.
It's alphabetical. That's handy.
Tell me what path you're on, young lady.
Visionary communication.
Visionary communications. All right, let's just go down to visionary communications. Where is that?
So those are speeches, not paths.
Where's visionary communications? I don't see that one.
You won't see it, it's a path, it's not a project. Those are all projects.
Icebreaker. Let me just go to the icebreaker then, wherever that is.
Damn. Well,
Yeah, let me just go to the icebreaker. So if you just go ahead on and click on icebreaker and hit the launch, it'll pull up that speech evaluation for you.
Where
can
so
click
where
that.
where do I upload it?
Where do you upload it? Okay, I'm gonna show you that in a minute.
Okay.
Once that evaluation is completed and they give it to you, or they scan it into their system and send it to you, that'll be the easiest way. Because you will have to upload that to your computer. And going back to the home page, you would go to My Feedback. And under My Feedback, you see transcripts, e-portfolio. This is where you will upload it.
Okay.
If it is handwritten and you have to scan it to your computer
Yeah.
and you want to save it, you would go to e-portfolio, go to documents, open the documents, and depending on what level you are working in, and this would be an icebreaker, you open that level folder, then you would say add file. There's an add file button. When you hit that add file, you will find that particular evaluation you want to upload into that folder on your computer, and it will pull it in for you.
So name your file something you can understand, because it's just a list for all the speeches.
That's correct. Make sure you name it. And I had to do that since I have two clubs that I'm in. So I had to name it. And that LOT lets me know that's Leadership Outreach. And where's the one for Club 1216? That's Business and Community Toastmasters. Yes.
Okay, you're in 2 clubs.
Uh-huh.
You have to do each club then separate?
No.
You
If
can use,
Are you on 2 separate
Right.
paths?
I'm on 2 separate paths, but what I have to do is, if I'm going to go to Business and Community Toastmasters, but I want to do a speech from my level that I'm working on at a lot, I can present that speech at Business and Community Toastmasters, but I have to make sure I change the field to say lot, and then send that evaluation form to the person that's going to evaluate.
okay.
So if I haven't chosen a pathway, but I've given an icebreaker,
Uh-huh.
and I think I've got the form in the book that was filled out.
Mhm.
Do I have to do an icebreaker again?
Yep.
After the path, once I choose a pathway?
Let me, have you ever been a Toastmaster before?
Yes.
Then you have to do another speech. Because that's under the legacy system, which is the manual speech path. You have to do it here.
Okay.
Because this is not transferable. No.
Or you can go ahead and finish the manual of this legacy system, and you can finish that manual and stay in that old system and not dig into pathways yet
Until 2020.
unless you're just looking for this challenge.
But I would encourage you.
Before 2020.
But if I'm only have one icebreaker, I might as well switch over to the new system.
You might as well.
There you go.
You really might
If
as
you've
well.
only done one speech in that old legacy system, move on to this one.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, so
Mhm.
now I signed on as, log in as member base camp. So if I go here, I'll be able to tell which of my members are doing what, and right now, none of them have,
there you go.
And
nobody's
that's what
really
I
finished
also have to
anything.
sign.
That's right, because
That's,
that gives you the tracking mechanism to see who has signed up for a path and how they're progressing in completing it.
Who has signed up for a path?
Mhm.
Right now, when I first went in there, now it's going slow. It doesn't show that anybody signed up for any path.
Oh, it doesn't.
So I got my level 1 done.
You got your level 1 done.
Me too.
Right, so. Now it's thinking.
Okay.
But I'll wait till the screen changes.
But and Joe, I don't think that I've uploaded any of my paper evaluations.
Are you maintaining those evaluations?
Yeah,
Then she needs to be able to verify that those speeches were actually completed and evaluated. So you need to make sure your VPE gets those, or you need to go to this system and upload them so that she doesn't have to constantly call you, Gil, I need to verify that you've completed this speech, so send me the evaluation form.
gotcha.
Mhm. So if you've completed level 1, have you gone in and made the necessary?
No, the only
For
person I
Hillary.
see, I hit another button. and it
Mhm.
says,
Toby, yeah, because I contacted Toby when I got through, because it said, I
Me too.
clicked it,
Is
and
he
it said you
confused?
gotta
Toby's your
contact.
VP of Education.
She
was
VP
VP of Education.
Yeah.
Okay, so that says that Charles is the only one in the club that has completed a level.
Boo!
That's right, level 1, that's what that says. Now,
No, I
have
know
you
what
gone
credit
into the
is.
system and given him credit under Toastmasters International so that they could show him as?
Toby may have. She's president.
Wanda's
Toby
president,
may.
Toby, who's not here,
Okay,
is our
but
education vice president.
But would he be
I'm
able to
secretary of
the
the
evaluation do it that day?
That's the only
The
pending
evaluation.
request that you have right now.
Cause he's,
And when I went here, it was blank.
I did it 5 minutes ago.
Oh,
It may have been. I was following you and going to the last part
Gotcha.
where it says mark is completed.
uh-huh,
I didn't know that. I just hit it.
all right.
So
then
it's likely she didn't see it the first time. I just completed it and now
Pull
she
up
saw it.
yours if you would, your
Oh, where
pack.
am
Yeah, go to your transcript. All right, scroll all the way down.
yeah,
Set your level, no, that's education, go back to home if you would.
right.
whoever if I evaluate Gil, you
All
don't
right.
have to go in and put it down.
Go to my educational transcript.
Why can't I do it?
They're all pretty similar from what I've
Work
seen.
it says mark.
Oh, because that's where I'll randomly, that's one thing I really don't like, is like when you start digging around and looking at stuff, then it starts throwing these things in here. Like, I just clicked on that to see what it was, and now it hangs out here. So I usually, because I don't know what it is, I just,
Who's that?
Website.
I think I have to launch it.
Just
I don't even care what it is right now, but then I usually end up archiving them.
But you can't archive until you get your public. You should, let me put it this way, you shouldn't archive until you
Yeah.
get
this one, Aubrey
more
Marcus.
showing you that it's complete from the VP of Education.
I was just going through some of the PDFs that some of the guys have posted
Okay.
online that talks
Here it
about
shows that,
everything about what type of supplements to take, when to take them, you know.
that says all of these have
More of
been
a way,
launched.
more of a.
Yeah, my status complete.
There's some interesting stuff.
Level 1 completion, that's where we need to go, because she
Yeah.
needs to get that information in order to get you. Did you ever get a certificate?
Yes.
You received a certificate?
Yes.
Okay, then you should be okay there. You're okay.
Yeah, because now, like here, like I don't know if there's anything for me to do. I click down and all that says is.
Crazy.
All of those complete, so you don't have to worry about anything. Wanda, this member is complete with level 1, so right now,
Hillary.
So like Tyler
Hillary,
Woodley,
you have two
Balance
people that right now
Road,
that
I'm
have
gonna go back and
completed.
see that, so because I have to approve it, right?
So
I think
it's
Toby
pretty
already
cool
has.
stuff.
Hers has
Tied in
already been
MMA,
approved.
Still, it's
And
cool.
Toby
So I
already,
didn't see her out there, I only saw Charles.
well, see, and
That's
Toby
correct.
had to,
This is done, hers is done. Now Charles has to be done because he just clicked the button, complete.
So she
Okay,
can't
so
see all
I've
the
got-
approved ones?
I-
No, once it's approved, it's approved.
Okay.
Because it comes out of her folder or out of your VP of Education's folder and it's null and void. The only ones that the VP of Education will see are those that have been.
They need to be approved.
That's it.
So
That's
that
it.
would be
Okay.
your same.
Which is why you don't see us.
Just-
We
right.
don't see his, don't see
Okay.
his.
So I
Not-
went here to see individual.
Not that it doesn't
projects.
exist.
Tell me what
It
it
exists.
shows
Just
I've got.
not in that list.
Don't tell me it doesn't
It's
exist.
there.
It won't.
Says 20%.
That's why you have to ask the club members. And you as VP of Education, what it will do.
So let me go back to home and go back and see if I can see Charles,
Sure.
right, and approve him. Since
Right.
he just did.
Charles just completed his, so you'll have to go back, pull it up, and then go into between the systems, go back to the old legacy system. Under your club educational awards, you'll have to go in there, get his name, and then pull up level one,
I look here and I see pending requests,
okay?
Still cool.
and I see Charles.
Yes,
Now, what do I do now?
what you'll have to do now, that tells you that it's there. Now what you need to do is verify that he's completed all of his speeches.
So how do I-
Yeah, it really is, it really does need to be a couple hour thing though.
Type in his name?
That's why you need training offline, because we wanna just,
Okay, got
yeah,
it.
you
I'll
need,
skip that.
Yeah.
that's.
you need
one.
training offline,
Okay.
because we need to talk about the club members on what you have to do. So we'll get with you offline,
Okay, I'm good.
okay?
Yeah, because that's where I was
No more
wondering.
questions for me, I'm good.
Okay,
New people, Charles Moore.
so right now we have Hillary is complete, Charles is pending to be complete, and you, go to Toastmasters International website and pull up your club and see how many educational awards under Pathways are complete. Then we'll be able to go. So right now, it looks like we should have 3 people that have completed level 1 in this club. 3.
Yes, I would
2.5.
say
2.5.
that 2 and 3/4.
All right, Charles.
I don't
They're kicking you to the curb.
I don't.
So 2.5 right now. Anyone working on level 2 other than Hillary?
I am.
You're working on level 2. But it's important now, Gil, you've got to go back and get these evaluations uploaded.
Because it doesn't count,
Slacker,
if
come
it wasn't
on.
uploaded.
It counts, but not really count. Because you've done everything, but she can't verify because she can't go to the screen and see what,
So is that a matter of me just scanning the pages in and
loading them up
Uploading the
under
PDF.
level 1.
Add file.
That's a matter of you getting that to your daughter, she's gonna load it up for you.
You're right, you are right.
That, or call Toastmasters
Okay, so
International,
where
and
do
have
you
them talk
want
you
me to
through
go?
it like you do.
Go to Leadership Center, and go to Distinguished Club Performance Reports. And I want you to scroll down to your home club, and I want you to look at the educational
We
awards.
have at least
Does he
2.
call them when he's like cooking and can't
Go
figure out a
to District
recipe?
11.
Or,
Basically.
yeah.
Region 6, Region 6. Okay,
I didn't know how
that's
to
District
expect that.
11.
Now what do I do?
And everybody, seriously, Toastmasters International says that if you're online messing with this and you're having trouble, they want you to call them right then, on the spot. They're in Colorado. So don't try to call them at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, wait till about 11 a.m. and call them in Colorado, because they want to help us walk through this system, because they realize that this is new, it's a little confusing, and they want to help us. And that's part of the reason I wanted Joe to come in and spend an hour with us, is just to try to make any of us, including me, more comfortable with this thing.
It's starting to make a lot more sense now.
One, you've got one. So
It's a convoluted
it's
sense.
either Hillary or
It
Gil,
is.
one of those
But can you make
two
sense of the
have
convolution,
completed
which
level
it
one.
makes a little
So
more
it's
sense
only showing
now.
you one level 1 complete. It's
You might
only
need to
showing
you might
one
need to
level
talk to
1
Toby
complete
or
for
Wanda
your
and
club.
have them
Does your level 1 on there have a
verify
little
it.
check mark by it?
Yeah, she's got the whole complete.
Yeah.
Everything is complete for
Does
Hillary.
it show her name?
It doesn't show
It
names.
just shows the number.
It just shows the number. And by looking at Hillary's screen, I can see that she's completed everything. So
What
Gil,
haven't you
pull up
done,
your
sir?
level 1.
Yeah, I mean, even when I went and said, you know, talk to the VP of Education, I emailed Toby immediately. I'm like, this got sent to
Deal is
people. I don't know who it gets sent to, so keep an eye out.
Certificate.
So maybe they just haven't verified his?
So there was also something I think at like Toastmasters International and Toby. I mean, because I was emailing with a couple of people to.
Mhm. What I need you to do, Wanda, can you log in, because you're gonna have to be under your club information, Club Central.
Okay, so go to my club.
Go to Club
Double
Central.
click that?
You're gonna have to log in now to get to Club Central, because you can't get to it from that screen. Because when I go into Club Central, what you're gonna be able to do is look and see if Yale's information has been transmitted for him to get credit.
Under Toastmasters or just the regular club website?
No. Club Central under Toastmasters International. Yes.
When I go to.
You're gonna have to go to log in, because in order to get to Club Central, you have to be logged in.
Yeah.
You got the certificate, that's true, but the question is, has Toby gone in and pulled your name down for you to get credit for completing that path? That's the question. And right now I only see one. Based on what I see, it's either you or, yes ma'am, or Hillary. One of the two, but I don't know which one. Yes
Like if
ma'am.
I'm in here now,
Mm-hmm.
and I select Gil Smith,
Mm-hmm.
and then I select the path that he's on, right? Or this looks different. This is
You have to go to level 1. It should say level 1.
dynamic leadership level
Uh-huh.
1. Review award submission. Not to submit his award.
There you go. His award just now being submitted. So that should pop up tomorrow saying 2 people from this club has completed level 1.
Ta-da!
You have to make sure.
See, Toby let me get to level 2. He went ahead and completed it on the
No,
pathway.
I think
It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference. You can complete level 1 and go to level 2
Without submitting.
without submitting.
Right.
But you got to go in and submit it in order to
So
get
you could
credit.
go 5 levels and not submit
Yeah,
any.
you wanna get the
Right.
credit.
And if it never gets transmitted by the VP of Education, your club you could have completed all 5 of the levels
You were just
And
processed
still
today.
not get
and
credit.
still not get credit because
So
it's,
it can be one of the 3 though.
what do you mean 1 of the 3?
It could be the
president, secretary,
VP.
and then.
Yeah, I just did
So,
it.
Yeah,
one
I'm the
membership.
secretary.
yeah, president, vice president of education, or secretary.
I have a
One of
feeling
those
I
three.
just got an email telling me.
Camp manager.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
I
I
really
know
did
he was
just get an
doing
email just telling me that
on
my
Club
level 1 has
Central,
been processed.
which is Any club
That's,
office.
and that's what you
Okay.
want to receive, Gil, in order to make sure that you have been awarded credit.
But you're saying as, I need to go through and make sure that he has all of his evaluations and that he really did complete all of his stuff.
Yeah, we
It
don't
has
have
to
to.
be
I'm
released.
not sure I'm buying it.
Yeah, it has.
I need to see these when I get back to the
Stop.
office.
Thank you. Because if you don't, your integrity is on the line as an officer, and you don't want that to happen.
Absolutely.
You don't want your integrity to be on the line,
Now I can see why people don't.
all right? Next question, okay, did that answer your question, who was that at? Your question, I'm sorry, not Hillary, but it answers your, so this is where you would record, okay? Other question. All right, one thing that I want you to pay close attention to, let me go back to home. I'm gonna go back to home, and I wanna go to the screen that shows the paths, the information under your path.
Should I review it with Charles over too?
So
Do
can
I
I ask, how many people
do
do we
you have
have
your
on
evaluation
Pathways? I
sheet?
know Hillary, Charles,
Gil,
Taking my assessment.
Maria, 3,
That's pathway 10.
everybody else is on there too.
And it starts with an icebreaker.
And if you hit
And you
the
can either take that
where it says
Or you can choose any of the other 9.
club roster,
If they
it'll say
have-
pathways enrolled underneath their
it's not
names.
gonna show up.
yeah. But them-
So
yeah,
once it gets you through the first level
everybody's
1,
taking assessment.
then level 2
Look
at all of our
starts to,
awards.
help you
So Bill
identify
Charles,
different
Maureen,
styles of leadership
She-
and what your style.
what? I've done the
So that's
assessment?
where I'm at.
Well,
now
it's on
with it.
pathways
So-
already, yeah, alright.
I just like the yellow.
Gil, Charles, Maureen, and Hillary.
Here's got another email.
Here's one thing that I want you to, want to show you. If you look at the top of each level, it says that I've
Charles,
completed 4. It gives you the minimum
I
requirements
submitted.
Okay,
for every level.
okay.
And then once you've completed all of them,
Don't
it
make me
gives you
question
the
my
total that
integrity
you've
in this.
completed.
Okay.
Toastmaster.
So, once you go there, and I'm just gonna go to level 3, because I'm now working on level 3. Minimum requirement is 3. I've already completed 1, which is develop the communication plan. When you get to your electives, there are 2 electives that you have to select. There are 13 there, but you only need to do 2 of those 13 electives. So what I want to do is pull up the view detail. These should be very familiar. Deliver a social speech. Remember that from one of the manuals? Presentation software, that's a manual. Storytelling, that's one of the old manuals under. All of these are manual speeches that we did under the old system. And if you continually scroll down, you will see the rest of them.
I'll get you signed up. You'll see an email on the next.
Connecting with your audience, making connections through network. Now this one is new. This is a new one. So you choose which of those 2, of those 13, 2 of them. That's all you need to do. And then once you have done that, I'm going to go back. I'm just going to hit the back arrow. And I'm back to visionary communication. Level 3. I'm working on one of those. But you don't get credit until you complete both of them. So when both of these are satisfied, when you've done both of those presentations, you're going to get evaluation for each of them. But once you've completed those 2 electives, then you will go down and you will be able to, go down and complete this assessment here for visionary communication. So once these 2 are complete, then I will hit here. I will send it to the VP of Education, Secretary, Vice President of Education, President, and one of those 3 will complete this assessment and say that I've completed level 3. Yes.
Joe, I don't really want to shut this off, but for the sake of our guests, it's Judy and
Brittany.
And Brittany, yes. And Monza. I know she has an application in her pocket to hand us. If you have to leave, feel free to leave. You 3 guests. If you want to leave, you can. If you want to keep listening, please do. I don't want to shut Joe off any sooner than I have to, but I just want you folks to know we're here every Tuesday from 12 to 1. This was a very different than normal meeting.
Yes, very different.
So please come back next week so you can see what Toastmasters really is, because you really didn't get a flavor for it today, I promise. This is probably a little dry and boring to guests. So please come back. Please come back next week so we can show you what a real meeting is, okay?
It may be boring, Gil, but these are the inroads.
Yes.
That those guests are going to have to navigate when they become a Toastmaster.
Absolutely. I just want you guests to know you're off the hook. If you need to duck out, please leave, because it is almost 1. Okay? Joe, keep going.
And you can just go in on your phone, Google Toastmasters International, and you'll come across some of the things that we talked about today. You don't have to be on our website.
Okay.
If you just go to Toastmasters International, you'll come across pathways and give you a little bit of basics of the vocabulary there we were talking about.
And this Pathways, it hasn't changed the structure of the meeting and the structure of the meeting roles. No. It's just changed how we now grade and judge the educational completions. That's all it's changed. The meetings and Toastmasters itself is still the same. So you come to meetings, you give long speeches, or you give short speeches, or you give jokes, or you listen, or you evaluate. It's the same as it always has been. Nothing's changed there, just the way that we grade completions now, educational completions.
I hope this has helped you some. If you have additional questions, feel free. Yes.
I've got a really quick question. I was kind of looking on my phone at the 10 different pathways and kind of what each of those kind of focus areas are. Can we choose work towards 2 pathways at a time, or do we?
Only in one club.
Okay.
Now, when you finish one path, if you're in the same club, then you choose a second path.
Oh, so you have to finish all 5 levels of one path before you can choose a second path? Okay,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah, that'd be too confusing.
Yeah.
Now-
Jump back and
Yes.
forth.
okay.
I was kind of wondering in regards to when it comes to like the so you're on a path and you've got certain required speeches, and then there's the electives. Now, am I correct on stating like the electives you're choosing are required speeches on the other paths? And so if you switch to another path and you use that as an elective on your first path, would it count for your second?
Every path is independent.
Okay.
Mhm.
I read that.
Every path is independent. Anything else?
To answer you about a second path, you can go with a second path too, but to do that, you're gonna have to join a second club. And then you'll work on one path in each of the clubs,
Okay.
just as Joe, that's how Joe kinda got started here in the very beginning.
Mhm.
He talked about being a member of 2 different clubs,
Uh-huh.
so he's on 2 different paths, one in each club.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Joe, thank you. Guys, go to the website.